Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here, and today we find ourselves in Europe in the year 830 AD. Now we are Carolingians who must bring more and more land under our control. Now we'll do so by exercising our power through allegiances of influential noble families who demand land in return. But the greater the entourage and power of a Carolingian, the greater the envy and resentment of our siblings. Carolingi is for 2 to 6 players. It's for ages 14 and up. Takes 30 minutes per player to play and is published by Sea Cove Games. Now it's being crowdfunded right now, so I'm going to show you how the game works and I'll see you on the other side. This is a crowdfunding preview, so all the art and components you see here are prototype, they're not final. To see the most up-to-date art and components, check the crowdfunding link in the description of this video. Each player will get a player board. Now on here, they're going to have followers of different types that they're going to be manipulating, placing on the board and things like that. And they're going to have some active tiles, and these are going to help them select certain actions throughout the game. They're also going to have some inactive tiles that they'll be able to add to their active tiles that give them more options later. Now the game is played over multiple rounds following this round tracker, and at some point the game will end. Now here I have the end game set up for 3 players, and note that depending on the amount of players you'll use certain regions, so certain regions aren't even used with less than the full complement of 6 players. Now when the game ends, you're going to be getting victory points for each of the victory conditions that you fulfill. And there's 5 possible ones, so essentially if you did all of them you'd have 5 points. One of the conditions is to control 6 countries. Now, blue here has control of this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Forested countries don't count for this. They have control of 6 countries, so they get 1 victory point because they fulfilled that condition. Now, they need absolute control. So if this was here, they'd still have it. This is another player's follower. This is a rebel gang. If they don't have absolute control, meaning more of these, then the total of any other combination of followers and or rebel gangs, and they don't have absolute control. So this player, even though they have more than either of these, they don't have more than both, so they don't have absolute control of that country. Another condition that blue has fulfilled is development, and that's having at least 6 of these developments on countries that they control. Well, we just talked about that they control all these. They actually have 2, 4, 6, 8 of these. They exceeded what you needed. You only needed 6 of those, and they have to be in countries that you have absolute control of, so they have that figured out, and so now they have an additional victory point, so they have 2. Another victory condition they fulfill is large following, and this is having 12 followers out on the countries on the board. They don't have to have control of the countries as long as they have at least 12 followers. They have 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. They have 12, so they fulfilled that, so now they have a total of 3 victory points. Now another victory condition they fulfill is controlling a region. If you look at this region here, they control all the countries here. Now they have to have absolute majority of each of the countries that are unforested. So that's all of these, which they do. Now remember, absolute majority means they have more followers than all other essentially cubes combined there. They have to have at least 1 follower in the unforested region. They don't have to have control of it. There could be other followers here, rebel gangs here, as long as they have at least 1 follower in the forest region and they have absolute majority in all the other countries in that region, then they have fulfilled that. So they fulfilled 4 of the 5 victory conditions. Spoiler, they won this game. Now let's slide back over to the red player. One of the conditions they fulfilled was glory. When you win battles, which I'll show you later, you'll be getting a cube here to denote, in this case they've won 3. Now if they have more won battles of glory points than anyone else, they get a victory point. Or if you have 4, you'll also get a victory point. And whoever has more points at the end wins. Unless it's tied, then it's the one who has the most followers on the map, and if it's still tied, it's the one that has the most controlled countries. Now there is a way to try to end the game early with peace if you think you are the only one that has fulfilled 3 victory conditions, but we'll go over that later. Now again, the game is played over multiple rounds until it gets to the end of the last round of the game. Now each of those rounds is divvied up into 4 different seasons, and each of those seasons you're going to get 2 actions. At the beginning of the game, you only start with certain actions, and over the course of the game, you're able to develop some of these inactive actions and bring them up so you have more choices, and you'll be able to do the same action more than once in a year, for example. But on each season, you're going to take any 2 of these that you have, and you're going to select them secretly And they're all going to get placed in this bag. Now, in addition to that, there's going to be a certain amount of event tiles that go in here too, depending on the amount of players. It's going to get shaken up, and then these are going to get drawn one at a time. Now, this is one of the main concepts of the game, is because you're selecting your 2 actions, but you don't know when you're going to be able to take them, because they're going to come out randomly from the bag and place there, and you take the action. It's optional. If you didn't want to take it, you don't have to. Now, this is the development action, and I'm not going to show you all the rules of all the actions. I'm going to talk about them at a high level, but let's go over the development one first. Now, a lot of your actions have to do with manipulating, moving around, or placing on the board some of the different follower types that you have. So a lot of the actions show that, and I'm not going to show you how many you do of each of the actions. Just generally speaking, you're managing this pool of followers, sometimes moving them into different ways, sometimes moving them the other way, sometimes placing them on the board, but it is something you're going to manage. In this case, I'll show you how this works specifically. Is you would take 2 followers from your Misi and move them 1 space to the right to these followers, and you take any one of these inactive tiles and activate it. This will be an available action for you next season. Now, instead of doing that when you develop, you can add a development disc here, and you can do that in any country that you have absolute majority, meaning you control it, you have more than everybody else's that's there. You can place up to 3 of these, but each of those you have to transfer the followers in the way I just showed you. You can never put them in your homeland. There can never be more than 2 per country. So you can put it here because we have 2 and there's only 1 there. So you can place them there. Now remember, that's one of the victory conditions, is to have at least 6 of those out in countries that you have that absolute majority in. And after you're done with your action, another one will be drawn from the bag, and so on and so forth. So I'm not going to show you this, but essentially everyone's action is going to go here. At the end of the season, people are going to be taking 2 more actions, putting them in the bag, then they're going to come out here. So over the course of a year, you're going to get 2, 4, 6, 8 actions, and that's pretty much how it works. And you'll be getting these back, putting them back on your board, and doing another year all the way through the different years until the game's over. Now, sometimes when drawing from the bag, you're going to come up with an event tile. This is going to have you draw a card at the top. Now, most of the time, this is going to be a country card, and it's going to get slotted into the corresponding region there. Now, we're going to talk about actions that can help manipulate what these country cards do. But before we get there, let's show you another event card that can come up. There's one of these cards here called the Hunger card. And you essentially go through every country to see if followers need to be removed because you can't feed them. Now, the homelands can hold up to 3 followers, which is fine. Now, each other country can hold just 1 follower. However, for each development token there, they can feed another one. So this one's good, and even if there was a second one, that'd be good. But if there were 3 of them, you would lose that 3rd one, and it would get replaced with a rebel gang, and that's going to affect your absolute majority there, because now you no longer have the absolute majority and control of that. So it's a tough balance, because you're trying to get more followers for control, but then it's going to be bad if that hunger card comes up. Now here, this can only hold 1, but there's 3 of them there. Whoever has the majority right now would get to decide who gets removed. So in this case, they can only hold 1, so both of these are going to get removed, and again, 1 gang is going to be placed there. But now you know how these country cards come out. Let's show you how you use them. Now, in the influence action, if you select that one, you'll be able to, we'll do 1 of 3 things. 1 is you can send 3 of your followers right to your homeland. But 2 is you can dispatch followers to certain country cards. You can see one there already on Berry. And so you'll be taking some of your followers from your board and placing them on certain country cards. Now, you can't place them on cards where somebody else has absolute majority there. But that's how you load those cards. Or when you play this action, if you already have some followers on cards, you can take them and you put them in that country. Now, if there are other followers cubes on there and such, they would get moved there as well. And you need at least 1 follower there still in order to do that. Now, if you use the Equip Misi action, depending on how many countries you control and how many development markers you have, you'll be able to transfer followers from right to left, again, depending on how many countries you control, how many development markers you have out there. Sometimes you might want to use this to move troops. Here you can move followers or groups of followers to an adjacent country. And last action, we were essentially getting more Misi, and that's because for each follower or group of followers, you have to transfer them to the next set of followers there in order to do that. And you need to have absolute majority in the region you're moving from. Of course, sometimes you could just play a no action because you kind of want to wait and see what other people do, or maybe you're out of the action that you really want to do. Sometimes you may battle to try to gain the glory up here. Remember, this is one of the victory conditions. If you have more than everyone else, or if you have the maximum 4, that's a point at the end of the game. Now, you only need simple majority here. So let's say it looked like this. We have 3, they have 2, they have 1. We only need simple majority, not absolute majority. So what happens is you remove them all evenly, like this, until there's only 1 left. So in this case, they're still here. These will get removed evenly, and all of those go back to to the players, but now you have absolute majority of that. Now, if at the end of the battle you still have followers in that country, then you can transfer one of these followers to here. And again, now I have that victory point locked up there. Maybe you want to sue the riot against the rebel gangs. Now here, as long as you have followers in that country that you want to remove them from, or an adjacent country, you can take followers from your Misi pod and essentially transfer them there and remove the rebel. Now you can do this in up to for 3 rebel gangs, as long as, again, you have followers in that country or an adjacent country. And assuming you have those followers in order to do that. Now, last action we have to talk about is peace, and this is a way to try to end the game early. If that is drawn, you must also had to have selected one of the no actions for the other action for that season. Now you'll check if you fulfill 3 or more of the victory conditions at the end of the game. And if you do, they check the bag to see if there's anyone else that played peace. If so, they get a chance to also try to sort of match you there. If you're the only player to have been able to get 3 victory conditions, the game ends and you win. However, if you're not able to do it at the end of that turn, or if there's any other player that has done it, then the game does not end. And instead, you'd move that tile back to your inactive section. But in a nutshell, that's pretty much the game. Now, there are many variants for advanced players once you know the game well. There's also additional modules that you can add to the game, and there is a full semi-cooperative version of the game. Well, there you have Carolingi. And as I showed in the overview, the randomized turn order will have you planning carefully and adjusting for those plans accordingly. Now, if you'd like to see the most up-to-date art and components and all the different pledge levels available, you can click the link below me right in the description of this video. Now, that's going to take you directly to the crowdfunding project page, and I'm sure that Sea Cove Games would love your support. Again, as this goes around, if this ever gets to the end, whoever has the most armies will win. Otherwise, if you're the last one standing or get your war camp to level 3, you've won.